All right, let's start with an SEC game, which is at noon. It's in a weekend full of a lot of large spreads in the SEC. You're going to see 27 and a half, 28, 30 and a half. This is one of the more intriguing games of the weekend, and I'm referring to Kentucky at Auburn at BetMGM. Auburn is currently a 7.5 point favorite. Over under has ticked up a few points to 49 and a half. Kentucky's obviously a program on the rise in my backyard here in Lexington. They didn't have a winning season from 2010 to 2015. They've had 4 straight since. The big question coming into the year is how will they replace Lynn Bowden? He was their do-everything quarterback. He was their leading rusher. He was actually their leading receiver. So Lynn Bowden, I mean, you have to replace him. You do have an experienced quarterback that'll take over in Terry Wilson. He's 12-3 as a starter, so it's not like you're going to a freshman or someone who's never played before. And Wilson will have the benefit of a really, really good offensive line, one of the best in the nation. 2 or 3 potential all-SEC offensive linemen. He'll bring all 3 of his top backs back this year. The receiving core is a complete unknown because, like I said, they didn't throw last year. So Terry Wilson is obviously not Lynn Bowden. They're going to have to throw more this year. It's going to still be a run-heavy offense, but you don't really know what you're getting from the receiving group. On the other side of the ball, Kentucky brings back 7 of its top 9 tacklers on a defense, a 3-3-5 defense that finished in the top 20 in scoring last year and number 2 in the country in pass defense. They allowed 167.8 yards per game. I'll let you get into Auburn, Bo Nix season. They're replacing a lot on the offensive line and the defensive line and in the secondary. But Bo Nix is back for a sophomore campaign with a lot of talent at the skill positions. I'll let you get into them. But I just want to cover this. That Kentucky number 2 pass defense ranking is the most ridiculous ranking I've ever seen for a team. So they gave up 167 yards per game last year. Let's look at their 2019 opponents. Toledo, 85th in passing offense. Guadani, their starting quarterback, gets hurt in the game. And a freshman, Carter, comes in and he is absolutely miserable. But Toledo didn't have a good passing offense. They only faced 2 top 50 passing offenses last year. Here's one of them. Eastern Michigan in game 2, they were finished 28th. Glass threw for 340 yards. Week 3, they played Florida, the 16th ranked passing offense. Florida threw for 300 yards. And this is when Franks gets hurt. Trask comes in the fourth quarter. He throws for like 150, and they outscore Kentucky 19-0 in the fourth quarter. So after those 3 games, Guadani gets hurt. Eastern Michigan throws over 300. Florida throws over for 300. You're not saying this Kentucky secondary is all world. Here's who they played the rest of the season. Mississippi State, 109th. South Carolina, 74th. Arkansas, 103rd. Georgia, 72nd in a monsoon. Missouri, 73rd in a monsoon. Tennessee, 75th. Vanderbilt, 115th. UT Martin, Louisville, 65th in a monsoon. And then Virginia Tech, 86, and they gave up 30 points. So basically they played, after that week 3, they played nothing but passing offenses ranked 74th or worse. And in a number of games, they played in monsoons, which doesn't matter to their offense. They didn't pass it. So I'm not a buyer in this being like a really good secondary. Maybe it ends up being, but don't take any of the numbers from last year. It's a complete mirage. So I think Bo Nix is going to have success throwing the ball with all of his, his lot of speed. Schwartz and everyone is back from the receiving core. So I would love to get Auburn -7 here. What are your thoughts?
I would love to get Auburn -7 too. I make this game 9. Projections, you and I are kind of loose on the projections the first 3 or 4 weeks till we get a lot of data in. But I mean, I think, Auburn at 7 is a buy. And we can see that in the market. Anytime that it's dipped down and got to 7, it quickly comes back up. So I expect it to hang at 7.5. I mean, if it crosses the 6.5 on Saturday morning, then there's got to be something COVID or injury related. But you can hit the nail on the head with Kentucky. I mean, there were so many monsoons and bad, passing teams that they went up against. It's really not fair. And, there's the problem with backing Auburn is that their trenches have been gutted. Offensive linemen, Brandon Council, Nick Brahms, they're the only ones to come back with starting experience on the defensive line. Derek Brown, Marlon Davidson's gone. Auburn secondary gutted. That's not good for them. What they do have coming back is Bo Nix, and he's got Seth Williams, Eli Stove, Anthony Schwartz. I mean, we're talking like an extremely talented, skillful passing set. But Nix has got to get a little bit better at throwing the ball. And where I get uncomfortable backing Auburn, especially, at 7.5, I'd feel better at 7, is that if you go deep into his numbers last year, I know he was a true freshman, but this has to improve, this stat. 109 pressured dropbacks. He took 17 sacks and had 18 throwaways and a completion rate of 27% in 109 pressured dropbacks. You don't need to be Joe Burrow. You don't need to be Tua. You need to be better than 27%. You need, 40% we'll take, right? Bo Nix, when he's got a hand in his face, he has not been a good quarterback whatsoever. Clean pocket, clean vision, he's fine. So I'm a little bit nervous with the offensive line situation, considering Nix needs a clean look. I'm a little bit nervous that Auburn could potentially get pushed around in that defensive front seven. I'm not comfortable with Chad Morris being the offensive coordinator. I contend to everybody that he's not really the one calling the plays. There's nothing that's going into for Bo Nix to run that isn't stamped by Gus Malzahn. Really, Chad Morris, you're only there to take the fall when it doesn't work, and Gus can say, "Yeah, wasn't me. Give me another, add another year to my contract." So, if you look at the Kentucky side, Terry Wilson has plenty of experience. Played in 2018, got injured last year. Set that whole thing in motion with Lynn Bowden. And the X factor could be Auburn's, transfer quarterback Joey Gatewood. This is a guy that was supposed to beat out Bo Nix last year. And as of like 2 or 3 hours ago, he's not been cleared by the SEC commissioner, Greg Sankey. So I'm not saying he would have a huge impact in this game, but it is another option for Kentucky, a dual threat option that we have yet to see get on the field. And there's definitely probably something inside this kid that wants to get out there and play Auburn pretty bad. I may look over, considering the tempo that Morris wants to run in this game. The weapons that Nix has are going to be able to go downfield. The dual threat capability of Terry Wilson, and just the gutting of the front defensive line of Auburn. I think there could be some points here. So my look is to the over, and I definitely want 7 if I'm going to back Auburn.
Fair enough. Yeah, I still think Auburn still has 2 really good defensive linemen, and they brought in a number of really high-level recruits, and they have one of the best. Yeah, Big Cat Bryan is back, Truesdale, and they got Hardy and Walker, and I know Cornus Miller was dismissed, but Rodney Garner, man, he can coach defensive lines, and they get freshmen in there and they just dominate. Obviously, they recruit really well. Their linebackers are also really strong, which is led by Britt, and that's going to be big against the Kentucky rushing attack. So I just think Kentucky, Bowden did so much for them, and this defense is a bit overrated. They do bring back 7 of their top 9 tackles, but they have some losses at linebacker, and they just benefited from such a easy schedule of pass offenses and weather that their defense is being overvalued here. The Auburn offensive line, 4 new starters, it does worry me a bit, but I think Bo Nix is going to take a jump here. It's one of 2 returning quarterbacks that started the beginning of last year that's going to start this year, Auburn and Texas A&M. I think that's big here. So, yeah, I like Auburn too. We'll be looking to either get them -7 live, maybe throw them in a money line parlay. And I'll be at a bar in Lexington with a bunch of Kentucky fans watching. All right, so let's come to Stagger in, by the way, if you're around. Drinks on me.